Are we live? Let us know if we're live. One of our computer equipment just decided to go kaput. And so we have found various workarounds. It seems like there were like 7 different people pulling cords and pieces of equipment out in order to try to make it all work. And I still haven't seen any comments saying that we are live, so I'm hoping. Oh, it is live. Okay. Yeah, there's a little bit of delay between that and the chat. So, well done, team. This was a group effort of every with chords. Even Michael pulled something just out of his bag. He's like, "Will this work?" So
we are having an audio issue because I was taking the wrong source. Please let us know if that is better now.
Okay.
I made an adjustment.
Adam made an adjustment to the mic.
Okay,
so.
I'm seeing a fixed. So.
Oh, Howard Lyon. Oh, hi, Howard. Hi from America, a person from Poland. So we have some special guests with us today. We have Isaac Stewart, who is art. You're creative development VP, and I think you gave up art director to somebody else recently, didn't you?
Yeah, it's a hard thing to tell people now because it's harder to describe my job.
Yes, creative development VP. And we have super special guest, Esther Hiilani Kandari, who is illustrating our secret project number 5. And so we're going to be showing off some of her art, and she brought some cool show and tell stuff. And we're going to be taking questions from the chat, which I can see scrolling. TikTok is now getting a shot of you guys. TikTok's on a phone, and everything else runs through this super big rig. But that's how TikTok likes it. I know you people on TikTok just like your phones. Esther, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself? Why don't we start there?
Yeah, totally. So I was born and raised in Hawaii. My dad's an immigrant from the Philippines. My mom is American, kind of, typical heritage, but she grew up all over the Pacific. So it was a very unique upraising. I was exposed to a lot of cultures, and I just got to see a lot of the world at a young age. I studied art in college. I have an MFA in painting as well, and have been doing that professionally for 7 years now.
Awesome. And I don't know, can people see the dressing dummy beside Esther here?
Yes, they can.
I came in, didn't know this was coming, that show and tell was coming. But you were explaining you work very visually, like I guess all artists work visually, but your preparation stage is a little more visual than I'm used to.
Yeah. So I was trained as a fine artist in oil painting and sculpture. I did a little bit of training with illustration, but not a lot. And so I find I do a lot better when I'm not having to ideate when I get to the painting stage. That's a very technical stage for me.
Yeah.
But because I had a lot of training doing sculpture, and I was a weird homeschooled nerd and sewed a lot of my clothes in high school, then I can tap into that skill set and build myself this really robust world, literally, to then pull from as I'm creating the paintings or drawings or what have you.
That's awesome. Yeah. It actually reminds me a lot of how I do a lot of prep work outlining before I start writing, because if I can front load some of that work, it takes some of the mind burden off when I'm working on the actual chapter. So let's see what people are saying. I see a question saying, could you tell them about some of your recent work, some of the things you've done lately?
Yeah. Outside of this, so last year I had a big show. I primarily do religious work at the moment, so I had a big show of religious paintings last year. Been trying to get a little bit more into landscape. It's funny, I had a little bit of allergic reaction to painting trees in college. They always made me want to cry because I'd look at the leaves and my brain would just kind of melt. But I'm trying to overcome that because I want to be able to paint more immersive environments and things like that. So I've been doing some plein air painting, things like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to get out and start signing a few of these things. Did they warn you about this?
I've seen the streams before, so I assumed this was the case.
So, for those of you who don't know, I need to sign 13,000 copies of Bands of Mourning for the leather-bound release of this later this year. I'm almost done, so I'm getting close. What we will be doing here is we will be talking spoiler for the chapters of Secret Project 5 that have been released. And so if you haven't read those, you may want to go read those and then come back and catch the VOD of this, because we'll be talking about that. But they're not huge spoilers because there's only 3 chapters. And then the story does incorporate and use as flashbacks the original story, Sixth of the Dusk. So anything in Sixth of the Dusk is also, we might spoil. So just be aware that that's what we're going to be talking about. Why don't you grab your cool diorama and bring it out for people, because I think they're going to love this. Question: when is Secret Project 5 going to be released? Sometime next year. We are shooting for early in the year, like first quarter, early second quarter for the ebook and audiobook. But it's going to depend. Like, basically, there's going to be a backlog until I finish Stormlight 5 and can do a revision of it. And until I can do that, everything else kind of has to wait. And so, well, we can be working on the art because I'm not going to be changing big art things, but Esther and I can have to work on it. Then the rest of the team can do their job of layout and proofreads and all of this stuff. So I need to do a revision, and I just do not have the time until June. So, oh, what's the T-shirt I'm wearing? This is one of ours. Did you draw this one, Isaac?
I didn't.
This is a fun one. This is just little subtle Cosmere things from around the various worlds. So, Esther, tell us about the diorama.
Yeah, so this is from one of the flashback scenes with Six of the Dusk and Vathi when they're on Pachi. And they visit what's called his safe camp, which is basically a treehouse that he stays in when he's trapping on the island. And like I said, I needed to make up a fantastical forest, and those don't exist freely in Utah, so we made a fantastical forest. It's not completely done. It's kind of in various stages of progress. I paused at different points with different of the trees and things because I wanted to show a little bit of that process, because I find people find it really fascinating of how do you get to the end product with an object like this. So.
Yeah, it's going to be cool because you said you're going to bring this to Dragonsteel this year, so they'll be able to see the final version. In fact, you said you might do multiple of these? Probably
going to do 3 of them, yeah.
So 3 different dioramas throughout the book, or 3 of this? Yeah.
3, different ones, yeah.
That'll be very cool. If you guys have any questions for Esther, I'm going to have the team be watching for those and pull them as they come up. I'm just going to answer whatever random stuff that I see from you. And we're going to stay away from spoilers to other books. So those of you who are throwing out your deep Cosmere questions, it's not the time for those. Not the time to be answering. I know a lot of you are you're throwing around. I got the question, what are we going to name it? So I settled, I saw what everybody posted, and everyone likes Isles of the Emberdark better than just Emberdark. And so Isaac did a mock-up for the cover for that, and I really liked what the mock-up looked like. So that's what we're going to go with.
And
so
we can even post that on. You've already got it up, huh?
No, I'm going to try.
You're working on it.
Yeah.
Well, he's.
The hiccup I have right now is my Chrome browser is currently with Let me see.
Yeah.
do we want to not try to potentially ruin things and just put it in the liner notes?
Maybe, yeah, that might be better.
There's one of the mock-ups is floating around on Reddit. They posted it to the Kickstarter page or the BackerKit page.
It got posted to BackerKit today.
So you can go see it there. You just have to, I don't know if that one says Islands or Isles.
It's Isles.
Yeah.
Isles of the Emberdark. While I'm thinking about it, and you're going to be like, what is Isaac talking about here? The artist who did that, I very much want to make sure that we credit artists. So your shirt, Evan Tuteberg.
Okay.
So did that for us. So
do we have these ones for sale, or was it a limited edition?
I honestly don't know if those are still up for sale. Check dragonsteelbooks.com and look at our shirts. It's been a popular one, but I think that one came out. Yeah, we might have that for sale. It was at least for sale at the convention. So sorry to rewind back to that, but I want to make sure that the artist got credit for it.
So, is the Sunlight on Yolan invested? Raffo, Cokerly flashback. You will have flashbacks with Cokerly in them, but you've already read them. It's Sixth of the Dusk. And so, what materials did you use for the diorama?
Half of Hobby Lobby. I've literally been there every single day this week. So the base is just 1/4-inch plywood, and then first layer is I built up just a little bit of kind of topography with sheets of thin styrofoam, and then plaster fabric on top of that to create a little bit more texture and some solid foundation, and then built the trees up kind of in a similar way there's a wire frame inside all of them, and then plaster and then air dry clay on top. So that's what you're seeing here. Also, parts of the trunks are actually pieces of driftwood that I built in, because one of the hard things with art is creating things that look genuinely random. And when you can integrate things from nature that does create that randomness, it makes it a little bit easier. So integrating the driftwood creates some of those textures without me having to think about it. And then I can kind of repeat them throughout the tree in a way that looks cohesive.
I really love this trunk over here.
I love that tree
It looks so good.
Yeah. It made me realize how much time I spent as a child watching Weta workshops and how much that sunk into my subconsciousness. But yeah, then after that, so this has a layer of, it's a homemade recipe of gesso that's a couple different things mixed together, but it's a really heavy-duty, almost cement-like paint that helps create a crust almost to it, but it also gives it, more of that bark-like texture and allows me to really work kind of roughly on top of it with the paint, as you can see with the patinas and things that have been added to the final tree. So I can really kind of rub things in and pull colors out and back and forth.
You get some
Yeah.
great depth on that with the way that you've...
And it's not quite done yet. I need to go in and put in a little bit more moss, and I'm going to brush some grays over it, but it's 90% there on that tree.
So I've seen a couple of questions here. One is asking if I'm going to ask Henry Cavill to do the audiobook for this one. I don't think this is a good match for Henry, and he has a lot on his plate right now. So I did ask him for a previous book, but he wasn't able to. I'm probably not gonna go seek a celebrity for this book. We haven't decided on a narrator yet, but it'll be a dual narration if I can get that. So Michael and Kite might be the obvious answer because they already are used to dual narrations, but maybe we'll get two different people just to be expanding around. I mean, I love Michael and Kite, but there are some people who do like variety. People are asking who the captain of the ship that's mentioned in. That's a Raffo. Obviously, it's not John Cena to play Hoyt. One good question that came up is, what would I recommend people read before they read this book? So this depends. There are some minor Cosmere individuals in connections. Obviously, there's some references to Hoyd. There's references to Frost, who's been referenced before. But this doesn't require anything other than the fact that it is space age. So you are going to see some cultures from Roshar, or not Roshar. You do see one from Roshar, but you see some more from Scadrial in the space age. A little like in The Sunlit Man. It's about that level. More the idea is that you have to be okay with the idea that you're jumping forward in the Cosmere and reading some stuff. I work hard not to do any major spoilers for other series, and there's nothing that this is building upon directly. It's just that I wanted people to be aware this may not be your best first Cosmere book, but some people could. So there's no true required reading. It's like a lot of the other things, just there's more of them. More little cameos, more little notes, things like that. I don't know, Esther, I don't think you had read any Cosmere before reading
No.
this book, and this is the first one that you read.
Yeah.
Were you lost or?
Well, so I did an extreme crash course thanks to YouTube and all of your
Okay.
super fans, because I was familiar with your work, but honestly, I have not read a lot of stuff for fun since grad school because I was still recovering from grad school. So yeah, I spent like 2 weeks just watching hours and hours of YouTube videos to get caught up on kind of the context of the Cosmere and this Mistborn series and all of that. So I did have somewhat of a framework to build off of. I'm sure I missed a lot of Easter eggs, but
You will see future era Scadrians. I'll just say that. So there you are. Let's see. Is this the world with kite magic? No, this is not the world with kite magic. Have not gotten to the world with kite magic. This is. You guys trust Hoyd too much, judging based on some of the quotes that are happening. Where did we find Esther, and how did we find Esther? There's a question that popped up.
Well, in the creative development department, we got a lot of names and a lot of artists together. Basically, we asked, who would you like to see do a book? I sent out to people like Howard Lyon and some of the other artists that we've worked with, and said, hey, can you help us out? And I got a lot of names. We put them together in a folder with all sorts of, just for art review one time, and just showed Brandon a bunch of these different pictures, different illustrations. And we, over the course of a week or two, narrowed them down and eventually chose Esther.
Yep. We do this a lot, looking at art, and Isaac finds a ton of fantastic artists, and the people that we passed on were also fantastic. It's one of the hardest things that we do is like, wow, look at all these great artists.
But luckily we have a team too now that can go and give recommendations. But we did, Howard specifically is who recommended Esther to us.
So, good. Some questions here. Is Starling one of Hoyd's previously listed apprentices? Yes. This is, when I wrote that line into a different book, I was, one of the primary people I was referencing was Starling. She's been in the works for many, many, many years. It's just like, when can I find a place? And this book really clicked for me when I started doing the dual narrative. So I wrote this book across many years, chapters here, chapters there. But the momentum really started when I added Starling to it, and that's when it really came together. So yeah. Who made the awesome cover art of The Way of Kings? That would be Michael Whalen. You should definitely look into Michael Whalen. He's got quite the body of work. Here are some people really liking your jacket.
oh yeah, it felt
or
appropriate
overshirt,
for the occasion.
Yeah. And so everyone's speaking very complimentary of that. When can you expect more B money? Maybe come next week to the stream. B money might be making an appearance next week. This is something we're working on. So you might be able to see some B money. He's got some plans. So looks like they're having some audio and stream issues. I assume you're watching that.
Yeah, looks like it's just like buffering issues. So it's on the hard wire, so I don't know why it would.
Have you seen Starling before? No, you have not seen Starling before. Is Shadesmar flat? Yes. That's one of the very weird mind-bending things about the Cosmere. Shadesmar is flat. Yeah. Hello, person. Someone said they refreshed and the stream stopped stuttering for them.
Okay.
So we may want to indicate that. Let's see. Have you seen Chrysalis before? No, Chrysalis is new. So you have not. Chrysalis is not secretly one of the others that you've met, because you've met two other Sleepless. So, and are you guys watching for any questions?
I have some.
let's throw a question at Esther, and
Yeah,
then I'll
so-
watch for more.
This one's from Argent Sun or Evgeny.
Okay, good old Evgeny.
Yes. Can Esther talk about her inspirations and style direction for this book?
Totally. So reading through it, I knew the context was they wanted something that leaned into sort of a Pacific Island, Southeast Asian bent, which is basically my entire life. And it felt a little bit more Southeast Asian to me than it did Pacific in some ways. But the interesting thing is if you look at the history of the Pacific, the like genealogical and linguistic lines go through Southeast Asia. So they're all connected in one way or the other. But I think the costume's actually a great example of this. I looked at a lot of Malaysian, Thai, and Southern Philippine traditional clothing, looking at some of the lines and the fabrics that were used, and thinking about how Vathi is often this figure that stands between the past and the present. And so how would she have been integrating the things of her country's past with this very forward-thinking movement? And so while the cut might be something that feels a little bit more European overall, some of the fabrics and like the way that the pieces of the material are put together are much more Southeast Asian.
People are asking a lot about the ember part of the Emberdark. So the idea for Emberdark is there is this vast darkness out there, but there are points out there of interest and dim light, and they know there's a lot still out there. It's not just complete blackness, but it's mostly blackness, and that's what that is supposed to imply. Is this the furthest forward that we have seen? I intend this to be the furthest forward. Now, we don't have the full master timeline done yet, but I intend this to be just a little after Sunlit Man, which was our furthest forward at that point. So this is just a little bit forward, but it's kind of the same era, just a little further than Sunlit Man. So why don't you get us another one?
Yeah, another one. This one's from Lard Bucket. They say, looking through your website, it seems that most of your paintings are portraits. Excuse me. How did you find illustrating a full book, which I assume also has images of dragons and other fantasy elements?
Honestly, a little overwhelming. Howard Lyon and I are good friends, and I frequently text him panic text of help. How do I do this? So it's definitely stretched me already, but that's kind of the speed at which I live life, and I'm very much of the opinion if somebody else trusts you to do something and you feel like you can take a shot at it, that it's a great opportunity to grow, and this has definitely been a growing opportunity for me. There will be portraits in the book, though, because that is my favorite thing to paint, and it's kind of hard to do a narrative book without portraits. There'll be plenty of opportunities to paint people, but definitely a lot more context usually than I have in my work.
I can say this from the things I've seen before. You're doing a pretty good job with dragons. So I've seen some sketches, and they're looking good. So I think people are going to be very pleased. Is Yumi further than Sunlit Man? Oh, yeah, Yumi is further than Sunlit Man. The question is this further than Yumi? And I don't think that it is. Or no, I do think that it is. Yumi technically is further than Sunlit, which is a good point. It doesn't feel like it because it's taking place on a world that's not as technologically advanced, but it technically is. So yeah, good catch, person from there. Once Stormlight 5 is out, the idea is to release a nice full timeline for everybody. So have you seen the Skybreaker before, Raffo? But do be aware it's quite a ways after some events you've seen before. So I'm not going to answer your question about Stormlight because that's a spoiler. We're not doing Stormlight spoilers. So whoever keeps asking about Sadie's, I'm sorry, but we're not answering those questions on this. So why don't you throw me another one, Adam?
Yes, this one is from Loose Theron Telescope. Mm-hmm. Is Starling the apprentice who the Kite story was going to be centered around? If so, do you still plan to write that, or have this and Sunlit Man supplanted it?
I do someday still plan to write this. And Starling was to be involved in that and might still be. So We shall see if I can make all the things work. But you're right. The Kite Magic one did involve Starling, but and it might still if I can figure it out. I'm not 100% sure I can figure it out. So the problem with the Kite Magic is I need some good concept art because every time I sit down to actually describe it in text, it reads real silly, and there you can have some silly magics now and then, but someone's saying is Sadius pronounced Sadies? No, Sadies is the Sunmaker. Sadius is Sadius. Sadius is said by some people. It's okay either way. I say Sadius.
But Sadius is just wrong.
Sadius is probably wrong. Sadius is probably closer to what they would say. Would be my guess. But yeah. Can you tell you anything about the bird people? I'm gonna raffo that for now. I'm not. Yeah, that's let's not talk about that. I don't think that's even.
Is that in the chapters?
I don't think that's. I don't know what they're referencing.
Yeah.
Because there's lots of things they could be referencing.
There is a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, if you want to learn more about the people who have birds, Sixth of the Dusk, you can read that. But you might want to just wait till this is out. As I've said, I'm going to be making some small tweaks. Nothing that's going to be continuity based. It's just that, like for large-scale continuity, it'll just be little tweaks to make these work as flashbacks and things like that. So we will be getting a revision of Sixth of the Dusk as part of this. So,
you have officially decided on Isles, though, not
Yes.
Islands, right? Okay.
Yeah.
I just saw someone calling for a vote, but I was like, I think that's been decided.
I like Isles. I'm just going to go with that. So
There's your vote.
will Kingmaker be folded in? No, Kingmaker. If someday I may write Kingmaker still, but I've tried 3 times and it's never worked. So it may never happen. But then again, I tried the Sixth of the Dusk sequel multiple times, and it eventually morphed into this and happened. So it could definitely happen. So do we got another one?
Yeah, I did see people asking about the cover color. Is that something that?
Yeah, we can
We
talk
can talk
about
about
that.
that?
I think
Okay.
we can talk about that. So when we decided to put this in with the backer kit, we kind of had to make some not split second, but we had to make some decisions. And we said, basically, okay, on this book, what's a color that stands out a little bit more from the other 4 that we've done? And so we chose, let's go with purple for now for the backer kit, with the idea that once we started working with an artist, we would kind of reevaluate that. And so that's where we're at right now, is kind of the reevaluation stage as we work through the art of the book, and Esther and I chat. We're narrowing it in on colors. The one that we did today is a little bit more of a burgundy,
Kind of a wine color. Yeah.
color that Esther was liking for the feel of some of the other illustrations. But we order a lot of these books, and so there might be a chance that we could ask for a custom color down the road. I don't know. There's a lot of things up in the air on this specific thing, but when we design the actual cover, we will get more into what is the color that we're going to use.
Yeah, we want to match the illustrations and the feel, and we like these to kind of be artist-focused versions, right? And if the artist likes a certain color, we want to go that direction. So, people are pointing out Zitzi does make an appearance at the very end of the reading I did, so they do know
Okay.
about Zitzi.
Okay.
I thought he might just be on the bridge, but he's out there. So what can we say about Zitzi? I mean, read the book. Let's just say he's from a place in the Cosmere that you haven't seen before, but you might have heard referenced. So there we go. Let's see. Do I have any plans for any more stories in this system? Yeah. I do indeed. And
I have a question for Esther from Drew Howlett. Says, if Esther could choose an AVR, what power would she choose for hers?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I always joke that the superpower I want is not to have to sleep, so I can do more things. So if there's an AVR that grants that,
that would be good.
I'd be down.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Are we prepared for the demand this time? We think that we are. I think we're going to be fine. One of the problems is that we've had, there was the worldwide supply chain crises kind of right about when we were ordering our books. That has smoothed and evened out. And we have figured out how to get these books made, like who to work with and things like that. And so I do think that we're going to be fine. But who knows? Maybe there's another worldwide supply chain crisis happening. Maybe they will cancel like our color of, we'll pick a color for the book, and then they'll just say, well, we don't make that color anymore. That's happened to us multiple times.
Yeah, And I will note that it does, for books like this, it's still taking longer than it did pre-pandemic. Mainly just because the world has changed.
So there we are. I'm seeing lots of interesting questions that I'm not going to answer for you that are very interesting RAFO-style questions. So there is a how do I come up with my magic systems? Watch my YouTube lecture on it as part of my lecture series. I talk about that at length. So is Chris in the Secret Project? That's definitely a RAFO. But, Naz is there. So who knows? But Naz has had a lot of different adventures with a lot of different people through a lot of different places. Naz, we should point out, is Isaac's character. That I'm borrowing for this book with Isaac's permission and an understanding, so anyway,
yeah,
you can look forward to a lot more Naz with Isaac and his things. He's on loan, shall we say?
It's fine. The big questions are things like, well, how does he get to this point?
Yes, how does he get to this point?
And I just tried showing the cover, and the cover was very large, so people got to see the color of the cover.
That's the current color.
Yes. So I'll just show what I showed again. There's a little teaser image. You can go to BackerKit to see the rest of it right now, but it's not final.
I should mention that the picture that's on there right now is basically just it's placeholder. It's supposed to say adventure.
What is the average airspeed velocity of an unladen AVR? Nice. So, which of Isaac's works can I read more about Naz in?
Okay. We can, I guess we can say a couple of things. So if you read the Era 2 broadsheets, especially the ones for the last two.
Yeah,
last
Isaac
two books
wrote
have
the
some
broadsheets from the last two.
I wrote them in the last three.
Last three. Okay.
Yeah. I think you wrote most of the broadsheet for Alloy, and then I did them for the last three. So there's some hints there for Naz on that, but he writes little things on a lot of the maps and different ephemera. He'll make notes, so there's some information there about some of his adventures and whether or not he's blowing things out of proportion. It may or may not be true depending on the comment that he writes. Sometimes, he likes to put some barbs Chris's way now and then, but.
So Naz was born as a character, as a concept, out of Isaac annotating maps and wanting to have somebody, because Isaac was our original cartographer. I'd been doing the maps ever since Mistborn, of basically all of the Stormlight books until he started
bringing some people in to do some of them, not just Stormlight, but all of the Cosmere books. So if there's a map, or particularly in the Stormlight books, ephemera, Isaac has had his hands in those, and he likes to add little Easter eggs, and he came up with this persona of this character who was doing this. And we knew we wanted these to be in-world artifacts, but we also knew that we needed somebody who's kind of recovering these for some thing. And I'm like, well, this works very well with Chris probably compiling these and finding artifacts from planets and bringing them back to Silverlight. And so that's kind of where Naz was born. I borrowed him once before for the Secret History. He makes a small appearance in Secret History. Larger appearance here. Isaac and I have talked through his history and his future, and as early as years and years ago, probably 7-8 years ago, I'm like, what about this? And that's when Naz joined Starling's crew in his current incarnation. And so, but yeah.
So I think it was with Alloy of Law where we realized we need somebody annotating some of these.
Yeah, we need someone who is the annotator.
Yeah.
And that was pretty early. That would have been before Words of Radiance, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the reasons was when you're doing a map of a city of the size of Ellendale.
Yeah.
And we couldn't really put these tiny street names and things like that. And so we're like, well, we need somebody annotating this. And he kind of, many things crashing together, but that was one of them.
Raffo on the glowing person and the glowing armor person. Getting lots of questions, or at least one persistent person on that. Raffo, are Chris and Naz still working together? Raffo, let's see. Any hope for a Mistborn D&D source book? Probably not. We did try, like we talked to Wizards briefly about this, and it, again, wasn't like they said no. It was just like Wizards is very busy, and the talks just, it's not like they even stopped. It's more like months later we realized, oh, we've been kind of just shooting past each other and things like that. So I don't think that's likely to happen. We are very kind of happy with our current partner for making that style of game. And so, yeah. Let's see. Did we determine we were going to show any more art, or how did it like
tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were planning on it, but
all
we
of
think
that
goes through this.
All that goes through that,
And
so
I
we're
don't know
not
how
going to
the other
bother
ones
with
are
that.
sized.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
the bigger issue.
I do have the one original, so we can't pull it out of the
Okay,
does
let's
have the
pull
one
out an original.
original, yeah.
And if you have another,
I'll see if I
yeah.
can.
no, don't worry.
Oh, okay.
So this is the one that I've seen that's finished.
Oh, I haven't seen it
Yeah.
original in person. It's looking really nice.
I love this style. It looks so cool. It's something we haven't had before, this kind of fine line work with all those little...
So we should point out there will be full color illustrations, and there will also be some of this style illustration that's printed right onto the paper rather than the full color paper.
Ooh, someone is buzzing.
And I'm going to try showing this real quick.
Yeah, and the digital file is slightly different. I did some cleanup on that one, so.
It's looking really nice.
Let's see if
Raffo on the shard gun. I know you guys would like more. That's all you're going to see in this book. This book is not about that. So there you are. There's your tease. Lots of questions about Universes Beyond Magic set with me. I'll repeat this. I'm sorry those who've heard this answer before. We talked to Wizards, and then again the talks just kind of didn't stall. There was no like, oh, we can't. It just, we stopped hearing from them. And my supposition is they went out and approached a bunch of people about doing collaborations, and a bunch of people got back, and some of those people were, Final Fantasy. And some of those people were, giant media properties. And they stopped having as much time for the Brandon Sandersons of the world and started making time for the giant corporations with huge media properties, and so which doesn't bother me, right? Like I'm pretty sure we will get some someday. There's very few high fantasy properties that could work for Lord of the Rings really well. I doubt, or not Lord of the Rings, for Magic the Gathering,
yeah.
like Lord of the Rings did. I doubt we'll get it before we get like some of the other ones like this. Like I don't have any insider information on this, so don't. But I would assume they would do Dune, right, before they get around to stuff like this. But we'll see. Awakened Metal Minds are a Raffo. Yep. Yeah, of course they are. Am I a fan of Terry Brooks? Yeah, Terry. Terry's books are fun, and he is a delightful human being. You can watch on our channel a time that I did a panel with him a couple years ago. We put that up, right? The Titans of Fantasy. So what they called that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's
Yeah.
one that we had on our NAS.
Oh.
And it corrupted.
It died,
basically.
so it's
Yeah,
not up
so-
anymore. Okay, never mind. We do not have that on our channel. It is lost media.
Unfortunately.
Cosmere trading card game. We've been asked about that before. I think that the more that people ask about certain things, the more likely we are to do them. But no promises, right? We have our hands full with the Stormlight RPG, which is a lot of work, mostly for Isaac and his team, and for the continuity team, less for me.
Yeah.
But
On the Dragonsteel side of things, on the Brotherwise side of things,
yes,
even more work.
yeah,
And they're doing a fantastic job.
They are, and Dan did a bunch of work
Yep,
for that
Dan
as well.
has been as well.
It's a good thing we had Dan once we started doing this, because he's been a good liaison. But yeah, Brotherwise doing a fantastic job with that. I think you guys are going to like that a lot. But you'll find out more August, September. I can't remember when they're going to do their
Yeah, and I'm not
campaign
sure if
for
they've
that.
announced the dates yet,
Yeah.
but it will be later this year.
Yeah. Pins of Syrian Sebron request for the team.
Noted.
Have they? So, let's see. When is Dragonsteel Prime expected to ship? Any ideas?
So I don't know shipping wise. That would be kind of a Kara and her team question. But I can tell you this. I can tell you that they are coming off the press. That doesn't mean that we're going to have them, as soon as you want them. But it does mean that the books are being finished right now.
They're being finished right now.
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah.
There's a basic timeline on the story at the campaign page, and until we have more firm timelines, that's the best we can offer.
Okay.
People are asking for, as they always do, updates on movie things. I don't have any updates. Why is this taking so long? We have gotten to a point where we can be very picky, very, very picky, and we can make big gambles after being very picky. A gamble meaning something that either will happen in a way we want it to, with us having a lot of control, or just won't happen. And that's probably going to continue, meaning we could have an adaptation in a heartbeat if we wanted it, but we wouldn't have any control over it, and who knows how it would turn out. And so we are waiting for the exact right opportunities to come our way, so that we would rather have no adaptation than a bad adaptation. And so, we can't guarantee it will be good, even with all of our influence and attempts. But I think we can push for it to be better. So, unfortunately, means you're going to have to wait. But if it means that you don't get whatever the Cosmere equivalent is of Master Chief running around without his helmet and having a love story, then we're going to do our best. No shade on those who like the Halo show. I'm sure there are people who like it for what it is and appreciate it. But when I heard that Master Chief has a romance, I'm like, how's he gonna have a romance? He can't take his helmet off. And they're like, well, he doesn't wear his helmet for the show. So, and that they spent an entire season and didn't get to Halo in the Halo show. Anyway, So I haven't watched that, by the way, but yeah.
So their feed is currently frozen.
Oh.
So we have two things we can try.
I
Okay.
wonder what we're doing in it.
We can
Jinx.
try unplugging the source and plugging it back in again.
Mm.
Or it's technically been, it's 7 o'clock, so it depends on if
Okay.
you want to give a full hour to the stream, which would be about another
Yeah.
10 minutes or so.
I can keep answering
15.
questions. We can have Esther come around and say goodbye and wave on my camera.
Okay.
And then we can go to a single. Does that sound good?
Whatever's good for you.
Yeah, why don't you come around, wave goodbye,
Sorry
and then
for all the technical difficulties tonight.
yeah. So thank you, Esther.
Well,
And
and let me do a quick test.
okay.
So it looks frozen on my feed when I put them up. Let
Oh,
me
it's
know
not
if-
frozen to them. They say it's fine.
Well, it's been on you the whole time.
Oh,
So
okay.
now I just switched it. So
Okay.
I'm going to leave that up for just a second and then put it back up and see what they say.
I mean, yeah, we can. I can take 15 minutes of just questions, and I think we can excuse Isaac and
Nope, it's frozen.
Esther.
So, yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will see you at Dragonsteel, and probably I will see you before then. But everyone else can come see Esther at Dragonsteel. So come visit. So all right, we are back to me, and I am going to watch until the stream catches up to me. Is Dragonsteel the Metal relevant? Dragonsteel the Metal is relevant, but you're going to have to wait to see. What would my AVR be? I'm going to steal Esther's answer. Think how many books I could write if I had an extra 8 hours in my day. That would be pretty good. Is the prologue pre-shattering? No. The prologue is not pre-shattering. The prologue is way post-shattering. Is Starling a nod to Robin Hobb? Not an intentional one. I just like the idea. I like the name. All the dragons have multiple names, and one of them is often something very easy to say and kind of, yeah. Favorite Italian in Salt Lake? Oh, that's easy. Valters. Does anyone go to a place? I guess there's Cafe Molise and there's that other one. What's that other one that's really good that you guys like? That you've sent us to multiple times.
Oh, I mean, Cafe Melissa's. Oh, Cecilia Mia.
Cecilia
But
Mia.
That's in Sandy.
That's in Sandy. To most of us, that's just Salt Lake. But it is like a 20-minute drive from
Yeah.
the downtown, so you can't just go. But if you're in downtown, Cafe Molise or Valters, you can't go wrong with Valters. Get the pasta sampler as your appetizer.
And the
So
lemon sorbet with sea salt and honey.
yeah,
as your
lemon
dessert.
the sea
Oh, so
salt
good.
lemon sorbet dessert is fantastic. When can you learn more about Wit? Well, in every book you'll learn a little bit about him, but you won't get a ton until you get to the Dragonsteel series, which is post Stormlight 10. So I got a lot of work ahead of me. And that's the Hoyd origin story, for those asking, is the book called Dragonsteel, which is the next book I will write after Stormlight 10. So, yeah. Anything on prosperity? Nope. No adaptation is better than a bad adaptation? Yeah. I don't get how come people keep buying things to make adaptations and they're just not caring that they're making an adaptation. Have I read Michael Moorcock? Yeah, I've read a lot of Michael Moorcock. In fact, Nightblood's a little bit based on Stormbringer. Definitely an inspiration. So Michael Moorcock's books are great. They were grimdark before grimdark was named. Is Dragonsteel still a trilogy? Yeah, I plan it as a trilogy. Nightblood book, the book Nightblood, someday. Let me get Elantris finished first. Opinions on Dune 2. Really liked Dune 2. Shocked that that Dune was actually straight up adaptable in 2 movies. It's a 10 out of 10 for me. My one criticism is I'm not, even after having watched it, sold on not doing the time jump. I think it maybe rushed the movie a little bit. And you get something by not doing the time jump. You get to show a little bit more Paul and Chani. You get to show him becoming Fremen, which is good, but then so much of the film is so rushed because of that. Favorite Pratchett book? The Truth is probably my favorite, just for nostalgia reasons. But Night Watch or Going Postal are probably both better. Granted, those are 3 10 out of 10 books, so ranking them is a little bit difficult. But Night Watch is probably Pratchett's best novel, just for emotional impact and plotting, mixing with his normal, of course, brilliant wit. So, let's see. When people love Guards. Guards is probably the best place to start, but I have not read Will of the Many yet. James Inslington. Everyone I know whose opinion I trust loves the book. And so it's on my list.
It was my favorite book last year.
Yeah,
Like by a good margin.
Yeah. Are you mic'd? Are people able to hear that? Yeah, good.
I hope so.
I keep wanting to repeat what you're saying,
yeah,
but then I'm
sorry,
like, no, you are mic'd.
Yeah.
I've read Michael J. Sullivan, and I do recommend Michael J. Sullivan, both as a writer and as a human being. He's done a lot for indie authors, read any Peter Brett? Yeah, I read Peter Brett. There were some things I really liked, and some things that didn't quite work for me. But a lot of people who like my books really like Peter Brett. And I've had dinner with him a number of times. Really nice guy. Will Isaac tell you his secrets? Probably not. But who knows? Who knows? Let's see. When is Winds of Winter coming out? You are asking the wrong person. Definitely asking the wrong person. So, Andre Norton. I have read some Andre Norton. Andre Norton was my grandmother's favorite book. My grandmother, or her favorite author, and she shared it with me. She's the one fantasy reader in all of my family. My parents all thought I was weird, but my grandma, bless her, Mary Beth Sanderson, she was an English teacher, and she loved Andre Norton, and she and I bonded over that. Grandma shows up in The Sunlit Man. So if you're reading Sunlit Man and you run across an elderly woman with a beehive hair that she kept dyed black until she was well into her 80s and passed away, and it looked really nice that way, and she was very proud of her hair. You will find my grandmother Mary Beth in that book. One of the early books, Mistborn, I think, is also dedicated to her. So yeah. Are you gonna know more about shards in this book? This is not a shard-focused book, so that's not the point of this book. So, how long do dragons live? Dragons are functionally immortal, meaning they live. So maybe functionally is the wrong term. They stop aging at a certain point. They can die to most, normal other things, though they are highly invested beings. But they do not die of old age. So yeah. Thank you for those who, yeah. Is Emberdark part of a series? No, this is another standalone. That doesn't mean that I might not write more about the characters, but I intend this to be standalone. I like these secret projects to be standalones when I can, yeah, just because I don't want to be promising more and more and more. Like I already, since I promised a sequel to Warbreaker, I will do it someday. But man, I wish I'd never promised it because I probably would do it. But even if I hadn't promised it, but then people wouldn't be expecting it. Are there spaceships? Yes. Ragavan or Wild Nacatl? Ragavan. Ragavan works better in some of the decks that I want, that I like to make. Like, if I'm going to go aggro, I will just go mono red. Yeah. Wild Nacatl's a fun card, though. I do like Wild Nacatl's draft format quite a bit. One of my favorites. Would Rock get along with Sixth? Yeah, I think that he might. It's hard to not get along with Rock. Let's just say that. So yeah. Would I ever write something akin to Red Rising? Never say never, but Red Rising exists, and you can just go read that, and it's great. So I mean, no need to write something. But yeah, Ragavan's a better cube card, and I do like to cube a ton. So there is that. Favorite Fallout 4 card? I mean, it's most people's, right? It's the Nuka-Cola machine. Just the idea of the food token and the treasure token and the art on that one, the special art, the alternate art is just so much fun. I did not get one in my pack or my box that I cracked, but I'm sure I'll pick one up at some point. Trudy Caravan. I've read one Trudy Caravan book. Caravan. Anyway, I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. But I only read the one, and it's been a long time. Excited for the Fallout show. Well, I was, and I'm sure it'll be good. I don't know. I was excited for Halo. Like, I'm really disappointed in the fact that there was a Neil Blomkamp and like a Steven Spielberg, and there was one other big director who was willing to do Halo, and they didn't do any of that. Instead, they did. I've seen this going around all over. I did not coin this. Master Cheeks. I don't know where it originated, but since he shows his bum, instead of Master Chief, they call him Master Cheeks, which is awesome. Favorite Final Fantasy? Final Fantasy X. I really like Final Fantasy X for multiple reasons, but the voice acting just really helped Final Fantasy for me. And I loved moving to having voice-acted characters.
I have an important question here.
Yeah.
This one's from Austin McConnell, and they say, when drinking water, cubed ice, crushed ice, nugget ice, flake ice, gourmet ice, or some other kind of ice?
I usually pick nugget ice above pebbled ice, but I've started doing a lot of water bottles, and the nugget ice sometimes doesn't match the water bottle as well as some other things. But nugget ice is my go-to. Favorite Wheel of Time book? Book 4. Again, non-controversial answer there. How many hours a day do I spend writing? Usually not more than 8. Once in a while, 10. I try to keep a good work-life balance. Sometimes when times are tight, I have to do 10, and it doesn't bother me because I really enjoy writing. It's just I need to make sure that I'm spending time with my family. Do I know anything about League of Legends lore? I watched Arcane. I know that's not straight up the original League of Legends lore, but I thought Arcane was awesome. Yuna or someone, whoever the other someone is, it's definitely Yuna. That's not a question for me. Not in my mind. That there's no question. But I think they're both just, all the characters are good. I enjoy their arcs. Yuna has a really strong arc, and a really fantastical fantasy profession. I love when you've got a fantasy profession that you can't do in another series. And so I like the characterization. I like someone who is quietly powerful. I just think that she works really well as an interesting character. And so I definitely enjoyed the characterization in that story. But, Titus had a great characterization too. Really, really solid. So Community movie. I've never seen Community. I know. I know, gasps from the peanut gallery. Never seen Community. I don't have time for sitcoms, guys. When would I watch a sitcom? I can do something that's like 8 episodes. I can't do something like I couldn't even find the time to get through all 3 seasons of Ted Lasso. I got through 2 of them, and I liked what I saw, but it's just like I do not have the time for something, particularly network television.
22 episodes a season.
22 episodes a season, and understand that the things that came out after about like 1995 or 6, which is when I really decided I'm going to be a writer. 97 is kind of the decision I made. And I knew I had to write a lot of books, and I knew I had to do a good job with them. At that point, my ability to watch TV just vanished, because I didn't have, like, the free time I had, I needed to spend with family and friends. But I did finish the One Piece show, and I liked it. I had a very good time with the One Piece show. I know I probably should have watched the anime, but again, so many seasons, so many episodes. And I was really impressed by how much and how hard they worked to stay true to the artist's vision and how closely they work with him, and knowing how hard it is sometimes, how demanding the mangakas are. I'm really impressed. Adam is saying we're almost out of time. I'm going to do a couple of more questions. All-time favorite movie? I'm not sure if I have one anymore. Sorry. I have a lot.
Such an unfair question. There's
yeah.
so many, I mean, it has to be a genre question for me.
Yeah.
Even
So last question. Let's see if I can see a right one. Oh, I did miss a question from a 7-year-old. I didn't get to read the whole question because it jumped off of my screen before I could, but this was like 10 minutes ago, Adam. Okay. I just want to acknowledge, thank you for being a 7-year-old asking me questions. I hope you're having a good evening. Let's see. Have I seen Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel? There's a good question. So yes. And it was like, everyone talks about how cool the Sistine Chapel is. And I'd seen all the art before. And I'm like, yeah, okay, Sistine Chapel. I do want to go see it. But it was one of those things that was so much better in person. Like the eclipse was so much better than I thought it would be. Going to Sistine Chapel, we paid the extra money so we could go early when it wasn't crowded. And I recommend that you do that. It's not that much more. And looking up, and one of the things that I didn't understand about the Sistine Chapel is there are these works of all of these great masters in the Sistine Chapel on the walls that aren't Michelangelo. And then you look up past them, and then the jump between them and Michelangelo is like, you're like, oh, wow, these are all 10s out of 10s. And then you see something that is somehow 10 times better, and your mind kind of breaks a little, at least it did for me. And the, like, full picture of it standing and it surrounding you, nothing else that I've seen, like, actual art-wise, physical art-wise, is compared to standing in the Sistine Chapel. So there we are. We'll be back next week, and I will say this, our next live stream will probably be longer. Donatello, favorite turtle. It'll probably be longer. We'll be waiting to see if the backer kit ends. My guess is that it won't end before we have to end our stream, because apparently it stays open as long as someone's ordering or backing it every 10 minutes. So who knows how long it will go. But we will be back, and I'll be taking questions, and it should just be me that time. Well, maybe with some, we don't have a special guest. So, there was the 7-year-old's question. It was about a pregnant woman. Can a pregnant woman use, I think maybe we need to do something so that when I look at the screen, they hold for longer, Adam. We'll see if we can figure that out. But it's 5 pages back.
Pregnant woman use the fetus's breath.
Can the pregnant use the fetus's breath? I don't know. I'll have to think about that. I think, yeah, I don't know that I'm gonna touch that one. I think that might have, that's one I have to, like, think about. So that gets into, like, you know, what's a person, what's viability, where's a breath, So I think I'm just gonna stay away from that one for right now. So there you are. Thank you all. I'll see you next week. Oh, with special guest B Money. Yes, we will have special guest B Money.